Thanks everybody for joining here this afternoon. Thanks Ray for stealing my thunder, but yeah, we had an awesome practice here this morning. We reported to camp here today, and we had our first helmets practice in a modified way. Um, we did a lot of individual work that we had already previously done, but we were able to wear helmets today. And then same thing with the ability to finally have a football out of practice. So that was great. We were and did some group drills and then into some team work on air. So we'll progress going through the NCAA acclimation this way with another practice tomorrow. And then we take Sundays off in our routine. So Sunday will be off. And then we'll finish up the acclimation Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, and then move forward, from there. So, I thought the guys were really excited and fired up for the start of it. I think it really showed with our energy level today. The guys have put in great work prior to last week, but it was great to get back out on the field with them. It seems like it's been a long road to get to this point, and to be a part of it was just absolutely spectacular. So I had everybody that we expected to be at practice today at practice. So that was great. And like I said, the guys had great energy, and the modified way that we went through practice, I think the guys felt like they got a lot of work in. I think they felt like it was great to get back to football, and it seemed like they had a lot of fun. So, in a challenging world right now, to be able to say the word fun was awesome for them. So, and I would echo that as their coach. So great day, a lot of fun. And we'll have meetings here. We're kind of on a modified camp schedule. So without going our typical routine, we'll be able to wrap things up at 6. And then as things progress, we'll progress and get into a little bit more full on camp. So a lot of work has been done behind the scenes. I want to first and foremost thank Dr. Jeff Mianis, Dr. Palinkas, everybody at Northwestern Health System. They're in charge here medically, along with Kevin Kikagawa, our head football athletic trainer, and his staff. They've been absolutely relentless, and they've done a terrific job. I think, number one, being transparent, educating us as a staff, and educating our players and their families. And then, working through it day by day, and being really nimble with what we have to do and how we have to do things. So they've been terrific. Obviously, that permeates then through our strength staff, our equipment staff, our nutrition staff. It's been spectacular. So very thankful for that. And going back, we did make a decision to pause workouts here earlier in the week, but as we retested, we found out that everybody came back negative. So we actually are still batting 1,000. We've had 0 positive tests. So really proud of our guys with the choices they're making. It's not a 4-hour problem that they're in the building. It's the other 20 hours that I think is a challenge for every college football player and every college student. So to see the choices and decisions that they're making has been great. Same thing with our staff. As we've been tested now, everybody's come back negative. So, so far so good. We're going to keep taking it day by day, making sure that health and safety is the number one priority, and being transparent and answering all and every question that we can for our young men and for their families, and being driven by Dr. Mianis and our medical team. So really proud of the group, and a great first day. So thanks again for being on, and I'll answer any questions that I can for you. Thanks.
I should have mentioned too, we will provide the recording of this, but Matt, why don't you start?
Hey, Fitz, just wondering if you can kind of take us through the week as far as you find out, someone tests positive. You don't know probably until the last minute. Well, you don't know until the Big Ten tells you when the schedule's going to start and when you can then start camp, and then you don't know when you guys will be cleared as a program health-wise. And you said there we're batting 1,000. Does that mean like currently everyone's fine?
No, the whole program. That was a false positive. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a false positive, and so it has happened. It's happened at other schools. Talking to some of my colleagues. So I think what did it show us? It showed us that I think our plan and our execution of our plan has been flawless. Doc has set everything in motion with working with our epidemiologists and all of our experts here at NUHS. And, so we've tried to do everything we can to educate our guys. And so what happened, it was actually wrapping up meetings last Friday. And I went to play some really, really bad golf Friday night for a little twilight with some friends. And at dinner that night, my phone didn't shut off until about 10:30. That we're enacting contact tracing and going through all that stuff. So that's what we worked through. We adjusted the week. It was going to be what we call a deload week in the weight room anyway. So the workouts are going to be modified. So we're still able to provide that to our guys from a strength staff standpoint and athletic training. And then when the Big Ten came out with their announcements, we were adjusting practice with the anticipation of having our contact traced guys and our false positive out. And then we got word middle week that was a false positive, and that everybody, again, after retesting everybody again multiple times, that everything was all clear. So we got the all clear to continue workouts. We could have done it yesterday, but with it being a deload week, so to speak, quote unquote, from our strength coaches, we decided to wait until today when we can officially start training camp. And that's what we decided to do. Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, you got another one, Matt? Sorry.
You're just muted, buddy.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I was muted. I just had a follow-up to that. Not to be doom and gloom with everything going on, but if you guys had to basically shut down your entire operation because of one false positive, how sustainable do you really think this is, as far as just like day by day, week by week, and hopefully getting to the point where you get to the season and to December and so forth?
I think you just answered your own question. I think it's day by day. I think it's choice by choice. I mean, I've been to, my son Brennan's playing travel baseball. I call it Little Giants. You guys remember the movie Little Giants? So everywhere I'm at, if I'm not in a mask, I'm Little Giants. And when parents would come talk to me, I'd backpedal to get to Little Giants. So, I've always got a mask in my pocket. If I'm not masked up, and if I feel like I'm in an environment, I put a mask on and I try to stay social distance. So it's not just our players, it's our entire program. And then my conversations with Stacy, like personally, right, with Stacy and my boys, like you guys got to make great choices, and we're constantly evaluating what we're doing and how we're doing things. So, I guess I'd call it a pseudo bubble that I've tried to live my life in. I've been around the same people. I haven't really branched out to a lot of different people, same friends that I've been around. They all understand my role, and they're very, very conscious of that. So, that's kind of what I've done.
Thanks.
Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Pat. What's that like when you get a negative result on the COVID test? And what's that like in terms of from an emotional standpoint for you as a coach, and just in dealing with the parents and having to tell them, hey, your kid got, tested positive for COVID?
Right. Well, our medical team handles all that, Andy. So that's not going to be in my discussion. And we as a staff are really concerned about the isolation standpoint from a mental health and from the quarantine from a mental health. So it's kind of all hands on deck with communication with the young man while he's in that phase. You probably have seen the Northwestern University plan when the students come back. There's basically going to be a 2-week quarantine, give or take. And don't quote me on the numbers, but so we did that, the same onboarding. We've been lockstep with NUHS and the university. That's why we were one of the last teams to report in the country, as they were waiting to finalize some details. So listen, none of these decisions are being made by me. I'm just following their lead. And when I'm told we can practice and it's healthy and safe, I have trust in that. I feel like our guys do. I think our guys have great trust. I don't want to speak for them, but that's the feedback that I've gotten as I've talked to our players.
Has anyone opted out?
Like I said, everybody we expected to have at practice today was at practice today.
Dave?
It's a very nice pergola behind you, Mr. Cat. You're frozen
There
though.
you go. Hey, thank you. Thanks. I spent the quarantine building it.
Oh, good for you.
So you have a game 4 weeks from tomorrow. So how much acceleration does there have to be compared to a normal season to be ready to play in 4 weeks? And how much catching up is there for the guys who missed the 8 spring practices that you had?
Well, we've been very fortunate when the NCAA granted us the extended summer access. We were able to go through our installations mentally, and then we were able to walk through those. So we had basically gotten, I believe, again through I think our 10th installation mentally and able to walk through it before we took our pause starting on Monday. So I felt like we got pretty far along, Dave, on the mental side. I made a decision with our staff until we get the exact information on contact tracing, until we get the exact information from the NCAA on eligibility. I think it's in our best interest to do as much as we can without a ton of contact. And so that's why I keep calling it a modified practice, because we're going to make sure that our guys can have all the information that they need personally, their families need collectively, and then we'll be 100% in support of what decisions our guys choose to do. If they choose to play, then great. And if they choose for medical reasons to not play, then we'll support them 100%. We've told them since the beginning that this is optional. We made that decision collectively as a university before the Big Ten announced that, before that went national. And we just believe that that's the right thing to do. But a big piece for these young men and their families is the eligibility piece. And I'm on the football oversight committee representing the AFCA, and we had a long talk about that yesterday. And I think I was very clear that the feeling of every coach I've talked to and all of our players is that I believe the players should have maximum flexibility. But, my hope is that those are the decisions that are made, but we need those made not yesterday. We need it like a week ago. So hopefully those decisions will be made sooner than later. It sounds like there's a deadline of the 14th at the latest. And I think, we'll see how things progress from there. But I'm looking more at the macro. I think it's more mental rights. I think it's 99-1, mental to physical. And so we're going to make sure we ramp up our camp accordingly from a cardiovascular standpoint. And then when it's time for us to play a true practice, we'll do that.
All right, we'll go Ralph and then Louis. All right, did Ralph leave? Might have left. Louis, you're up.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Louis, keeping the beard, brother. Looking good, man. Yeah.
I found that Civil War look. I'm telling you, it's me.
I love it.
I know you just had the first practice today, but can you give us a sense of, moving forward, how much is going to be the same? How much is going to be different? And what precautions are you taking to protect players? Does it change how you group them out there? What's happening out there?
Well, right now everybody's on air, so we're hitting sleds, and then it's like a car wash, and we're spraying them down. I mean, we're doing everything Doc has told us to do. So I think if you were just walking down the Lakeshore path, I think you'd be like, that looks like a football practice, right? And then when you watch, when we go to team drills and group drills, it's more on air, trash cans and things of that nature right now. So just what I told the guys as a staff is I want to be able to crawl, then I want to be able to walk, then I want to be able to run, then I want to be able to sprint. That's kind of give you the mindset of our camp. And, we'll see where things are at. I think the 14th deadline is an important day for all of college football as far as the eligibility piece. And I think, every day that we move forward and we get closer to playing, the Big Ten obviously has got to finalize all their protocols. And as you saw in the release, I think it's great the direction that everything is headed, but those things need to be finalized, do it transparently with our programs, our players and their families, and then we'll just keep moving forward day by day. But health and safety has got to be the number one priority.
So you said, walk and then run and then sprint. So what goes into each of those stages? What do you see adding for each of those things?
Well, I think sprinting would be the full practice that you're used to seeing, Louis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you were to come out and I'm not putting a timetable on how long that'll be until we get to that point. But first and foremost, right now, we want to make sure that we've got all the answers from the state of Illinois, from the health department, and then the Evanston Health Department, and then the NUHS decisions on contact tracing, so we can educate our guys. I think that's maybe the story that, if it hasn't been written, really needs to be written. Exactly, how contact tracing is different in different areas, different locales. I mean, that's a big part of this equation. If we're going to be able to play football this fall, is how that works out. So, talking to some of my colleagues that, when it's the CDC is 6 feet and 15 minutes of being together. And, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it would be really hard to be across from a guy for 15 straight minutes at a football practice. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. It's not the way the game is. And so, listening to Brian Hainline from the NCAA yesterday, it just sounds like there's a lot of communication with athletic bodies, the NCAA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, educating, I think, the CDC at times on exactly what those things are. So I think that's fluid, and I'm going to err on the side of being cautious in advance of that.
I'll go ahead.
If we're going to place it, if and when we play in the opener, Louis, we'll be ready. We'll be ready.
Kind of talking on that topic of health and safety protocols that have come out in the Big Ten. Also happening this week was the Players Tribune piece published by some of the Big Ten players. What was I know you retweeted it, and some of the other Northwestern football accounts retweeted it and shared it. So what were your conversations with the team either ahead of that or in the wake of its publication?
Yeah, I mean, I was alerted that that would be coming out, and again, as always, and I'll go back to a lot of the experiences that I'm proud of our guys if they're a part of it to be stepping up to be leaders. We'll address all those things. I mean, from the standpoint of what I read or what was shared to me, it's a lot of questions on the protocols and procedures for the Big Ten. So, we'll wait to see their answers to those things and go from there. But I've always been, and I always will be. Before I was a coach, I was a player, and I always try to approach everything that I do of what it's like looking out of the helmet as a player, instead of looking into the helmet as a coach first in my decision making. And so, I think it's very courageous to step up to create change. I think it takes, great leadership, and if our guys are a part of that, I'm really proud of them, and I'm all for whatever is in the best interest of health and safety and what's in the best interest of the improvement of the student athlete experience. I always have been, and I always will be.
Andy?
Yeah, Pat, do you mention to the guys what happened last year and just how much of a motivating factor do you think that'll be for them coming into this season?
We did in the spring, yeah. I mean, there's two extremes, right? When you go to the Big Ten West Championship and, you have that success, you want to try to put that team to bed and move on to the next one. And then you have a disappointing on the field success like we did last year, and you want to put that to bed and move on. And we did that back in January. So I thought we moved on from that during spring practice, and we've had, I think, a very focused group. I'm really proud of the work the guys put in during the pandemic time when we were all away from each other. They came in great shape. They came in physically incredibly improved. But that goes back to what we tried to do. We tried to overturn every stone we could from a nutrition standpoint. We sent our guys that didn't have workout gear. We sent them gear to be able to get through workouts. And so we've tried to be as transparent and diligent as we can every step of the way. And our guys have been our guiding light. So I think our guys have moved on, and I think they're ready to get after it in 2020 if and when we get the chance to play.
Adam, and then Shannon.
Yeah, Pat, you guys have done so much work to get to this point to try to prepare for this season. I'm just wondering, given that there's still so much uncertainty that the season will actually get played, how does that impact just the mental state of everybody in your building, and how do you manage that going forward with that uncertainty?
That's a great question. These are all awesome question, Adam. That's why we're going to walk, or we're going to crawl first, right? I mean, I'm trying to stay up to speed on everything. I know we have a September 5th start date. You saw the way that the Big Ten schedule can be converted. I'm sure that you guys saw that in the release. I'm looking at the SEC. What are they starting mid-September, late September, right? September. Right. So I think if that's what's going on, that's way too long of a training camp, and that's why I want to make sure we stay, if not more than anything else, mentally fresh. I mean, we're going to get out of it. We're going to be done today at 5:30, which will be the earliest we've ever been done at camp. We started at 8:30 this morning with meetings. So, and the guys got basically from post-practice off until 3 o'clock. So very, very conscious of that. I'm looking at that standpoint for our staff and our players more as a marathon than a sprint. and making sure we're doing everything to, if and when we play, that we're mentally fresh, we're emotionally fresh, we're physically fresh, and we're ready to go compete. Because as I got sent to me last night from one of our players, hey, did you see we're playing 5 preseason top 25 teams? So I said, yes, I did. So
just you guys are always working towards that goal of a season, though. Have you stressed or had discussions around the value in what you've done, even if there is no season, or the value of what you could do if the plug is pulled on August 28th or whatever?
Absolutely we have. We've talked about the decisions we make while we're in a COVID is going to be the difference. There's going to be certain teams that stay healthy. There's going to be certain teams that make great choices socially. There's going to be certain teams that put the work in when no one's watching. That's how we define character. Who you are is no one's watching. And I thought from a football character standpoint, our guys knocked it out of the park. But that's going to be a continual challenge, right? We're onboarding more teams here every day. We'll be onboarding our student body here soon. And if I could write an article for the Daily Northwestern, I would write, please wear a mask. If you want football, socially distance, wash your hands, and make great choices socially so we can play Wildcat football. And I'm looking at the positive. Look at the glass half full. Let's be great stewards of the community. And that's what our guys have done. Our hoops teams have been here. And so they've been great stewards of the community. And my hope is that our entire student body can do it. Listen, this is uncharted waters for all of us. I'm not just talking about our athletes. I'm talking about all of our students in our campus community. And we've all got to do this together if we want to be able to pull off a school year, if we want to be able to pull off athletics, if we want to be able to pull off social things. I've already brought up to Jim Phillips. I feel like I'm like a 7th grade PE teacher right now, and we got to try to have a dance and make sure it's, what are we going to do socially? What things are we going to do instead of saying, man, we got to go do this. How about we create some things and be creative? So it's a unique time, and it calls for unique leadership. It calls for unique decisions. And that's what we're trying to do. And I'm not running from anything. I think that's what I told our guys. We can't run from any of this. We just have to attack it with great wisdom and just have great awareness of the situations you put yourself in.
Shannon.
Am I up? Did you say my name?
Hi, Shannon.
Yep, I did. You're up.
Sorry, my video's not working and it's a little choppy. Sorry. But just a couple of things I wanted to clarify is, so when one player, tested positive, turns out to be negative, but you pause the workouts. Is that how you plan to handle it during this time of workouts? And then what's the plan when the season starts and you get a positive, if you would get a positive test?
Yeah, that's a great question for Jeff Mianis. I just get told Doc called me and said that, hey, we have a positive. We're starting in that contact tracing. I went and I finished my dinner, and then he said, I'll call you. He texted me, said, I'll call you in the morning. I said, great, whatever we need. If you need me, the staff or anything, let us know. And Sunday morning, he gave me a call. He said, after talking with NUHS, we feel right now until we can get everyone retested from a contact tracing standpoint that we want to pause the workouts. I said, I've got 100% trust and confidence it's the right thing to do, and that was the decision that we made. I know other schools have decided to quarantine guys, and then, maybe they have different testing protocols. I don't know. I don't want to speak for other schools, but we felt like it was Doc felt like it was the right decision to do that here to start the week. And then as we, like I said, got to Wednesday afternoon to get the great news, I'm out of respect to the guys, obviously from HIPAA reasons, I can't tell you who, but the text message I got from the guys that they were out of quarantine and it was negative. It was pretty funny. It was pretty interesting emojis. I'll just put it to you that way.
Oh, okay. How many guys were quarantined? Can you say that?
Yeah, I think I can say that. And if not, then ask Ray, but I think we had 37 total guys that we did contact tracing, I believe was the number.
The 37 were quarantined with the contact tracing.
Yeah, total. Yeah.
Okay. And what is your protocol for testing? Is it going to be the Big Ten standard of 2 times a week from what you know?
At least, yes.
At least,
okay.
Okay.
At least, yeah. Yeah. We've been surveilled. It was a 2-test onboarding and again, maybe Jeff I mean, I know doctors are, I mean, first of all, I said it and I can't say it enough, the job that our doctors across the country are doing. I mean, this is uncharted waters, and, you know, for our healthcare providers throughout and our first responders. I mean, I can only imagine how fatigued they are mentally, emotionally. And especially for us here locally, the effort level that's been put in is, words can't describe how thankful we are. So, you know, listen, if all you're concerned about is health and safety, this is pretty easy. And when we feel like we're batting 1,000, the guys, I think, have great trust. Again, I don't want to speak for our guys, but what the feedback I've gotten from every guy that I've talked to, and it's not the whole team, but, you know, guys, how do you feel? How do you feel with the protocols? And, you know, feel great. Wouldn't be out here unless I did. So I'm like, great. I feel the same way.
Stay well.
All right. Well, thanks, Shannon. We'll go Ralph, and then Andy and Leah.
Hey, Fitz. I'm a little jealous of your haircut there here in New York.
I snuck out, Ralph, yesterday. I hadn't had a haircut in 2 months, so
That's why the hat's on. You mentioned the player movement and how you were very supportive of that, the Big Ten United, the Players United. I was talking to former Northwestern great Chris Hinton, and he had said that one of the things that he was sort of concerned about is he hears a lot of coaches' voices, administrators' voices, NCAA voices, and just in college football in general, they don't hear enough player voices. And that's one of the reasons why this was encouraging. And I asked, you know, as a guy who runs a fairly open program, how conscious are you of that, of the idea that, you know, you want to be the voice of the program, but we need to allow our players to sort of have platforms and speak up. It's not something that is very common in college football. The players tend to be shielded. Yeah. Is there a way we can be better at, or college football can be better at that?
Well, I think, you know, again, I'm not saying anything's perfect here, but, you know, I think for me, it's, you know, we'll talk about social justice and things of that nature too. I mean, I've got blind spots, and I've had conversations with our former players, our current players, in areas that we have to improve our program, and I'm working diligently to do that. And again, I think those challenging and tough conversations need to be had to be able to make things better, improve, and quite frankly, make the experience for everybody better. And it's the same thing in this environment. I mean, I've created a leadership council when I first took over the program. I try to get as much information from the players that I can to be able to make the decisions that we're going to make. But then ultimately, I'm held responsible for making the decisions here locally for our program. And so I try to get info from our staff, from our players, from our support staff, strength staff, athletic training. I mean, the more information you can get as a leader, the more you can make and have better decision making in your process. So, you know, again, I don't know how other people run their programs. It's not my concern, to be honest with you, but that's how we've tried to do it there. That's why I've always tried to be, since I've had the opportunity to try to be a servant leader from that standpoint of our players, but then also from a standpoint nationally. That's why I'm on the AFCA board. I asked to be a part of that when Todd Berry asked me to volunteer to be on the FOC to represent the AFCA. I've done that. I just think that's, I don't know, I enjoy being able to have that. And, you know, even yesterday, I mean, I talked to some of our players about some things before that I hear on all of our Big Ten calls. I'm expressing this is the thoughts of our players. This isn't my thoughts. And the same thing when we go nationally, I'll say these are the thoughts of my players, or these are the thoughts of the Big Ten head coaches. I won't say these are Pat Fitzgerald's thoughts unless that's what I'm expressing. So, you know, I think there needs to be a collaboration. There's no question about it. I think our student athletes have mechanisms internally and most programs with the SAC committees and things of that nature. There's national SAC. And I would just challenge all the young people that want to be involved in the discussion to join those, to be active in your local schools. And then you have an opportunity to do it at the conference and the national level. So we've had quite a few of our guys step up in those leadership roles, and I'm really proud of them for doing that.
Okay. And so you feel it's your responsibility to literally tell your kids to speak up?
I think it's all of our responsibilities to tell it's the same thing that I do with Jack, Ryan, and Brendan, you know, and I think we have to be better. I don't think we're even close to where we need to be as a program. I think communication right now and having difficult conversations, especially with the power dynamic of coaches and players, that's real, that's going to always be there. It's just like, you know, I didn't always agree with what my dad did as far as discipline and how he held me accountable. Now I'm 45 and I'm like, don't tell anybody, but gosh, he was right. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot of those, growth moments that you have. And especially for me as a leader of this program, I encourage our guys to use their platforms, and I heard a great line the other day. I think that we have to help them from helping them make sure that they're thoughtful and making sure that they're from a standpoint of being classy. And we need to be a part of helping them if that's what they're interested in, not squashing it and not changing their opinions, but making sure when they're articulating themselves, because this wonderful panel of faces are going to hold them accountable for what they say, and that's the same thing with us as coaches.
All right, we're going to finish with these final four here because Coach has other obligations. So we'll start with Andy.
Yeah, Pat, when you see what's happening in baseball, what concerns does that give you about, whether this season can either get completed or even get off the ground?
Wear these, wash these, and make great choices. I mean, ultimately, that's the deal. I mean, we've got to be, if we want sports and we want school, that's what needs to happen. And I'm not going to worry about the negative. I'm going to keep focusing on the positive and trying to talk to our guys about the choices they make when we're on. It's not the normal social experience in college right now. It's just not. It's not. I'm not having my normal social life, which I'm not very cool, but I have had a very small group of people that I've associated myself with this summer just because of my role. So I wouldn't say that our boys have not gone out at home, but they've pretty good pool tournaments and ping pong. So I just think it's, again, I'm not going to speak for baseball because I'm not with them. I'm not traveling with them. I think it's a little bit different for us. We're not in different cities every day. It's a little different that in college football. It's going to be more how things are, and how we all handle, our responsibilities here on campus.
At the same time, baseball has built-in distance. They're not on top of each other during a game. They're not going to be, your guys are going to be in dorms or in houses, living in close quarters. So does that raise a little more concerns when you look at it from that perspective?
If you're under 6 feet, wear a mask, wash your hands. I mean, I think that's, and then we just got to follow the guidelines. I mean, I've waited in line to go shopping a bunch. I didn't know, I walk in and I'm like, where's everybody? So I think I'm an eternal optimist, and I hope that we can all do that together, and we find solutions to the virus, and we can get back to going where we're going.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, go ahead.
On Ralph's question before, in the last 2 months or so since we heard from you last, what conversations, or have there been conversations inside the program about the social justice movements that have been happening in the country for the past 2 months, and what has that conversation been like inside the program, I guess?
Yeah, we've had quite a few. We've had one large group conversation, and then I've had a lot of individual ones. I think they've been raw. I think they've been real. I think they've been emotional. And I think it's an area, I think one of our players said it best, and I even mentioned it today: how do we create change? One person at a time, one interaction at a time. And I think that's something that, we'll focus on, and I'll use our players as our current players. And then obviously a lot of our former players and our mentors in the Black community to help guide us on how we can do things best. I've tried to really educate myself, try to educate our staff, and then that will continue on with our football program to make sure we understand exactly, how we can be better citizens, how we can be better brothers, how we can be better teammates, how I can be a better coach, how I can be better at all these areas. So, it's obviously different. I mean, we've had some unbelievable testimonials from some of our family members here that are just heartbreaking. And, I understand the privilege that I have, and I want to use that as a positive to try to make positive change and positive influence. But at the same time, I also understand that I've got a responsibility and a team to run. So I'm being, I think very respectful to a lot of those areas, and trying to learn and grow.
All right, Louis, we'll finish with you.
Coach, I want to put on my Rivals hat and ask a recruiting question. So we've got the recruiting dead periods are going to go at least till the end of the month now. I mean, would you like to see visits resume at some point? Is that even on your radar? And what kind of, impact does that have on prospects who are trying to make a decision?
Man, these were all softballs till Louis went to recruiting. Frankly, I think if you were to poll the coaches across the country, we want to be with our teams, right? We want to be able to get our teams back. We want to be able to coach. We want to be able to develop. Listen, everything's not going to be what we would quote unquote call normal, right? And the senior class that's going through recruiting right now, I don't know the exact numbers, Louis, but correct me if I'm wrong. There's more players committed today than there's ever been at this time of the year. And so I think we've got a large group of young people that, at least in theory, know where they're going. I would continue to keep the early signing date where it is. And if we can take official visits prior to then, great. If we can't, then that just is what it is. And we'll continue to do what we've been doing here. And that's trying to overturn every stone and show every prospect that we're recruiting. And you've probably talked to some of them, everything from the virtual visits. And we've even had families come take unofficial visits when we can't be around them by NCAA rules. So we try to organize that for some families to the best of our ability. So, we've got to obviously work here locally. I'll start there. Right now there's still, if I'm not mistaken, a no visitor policy at Northwestern. So I think obviously that would probably change prior to game day before we open up Ryan Field. So as that changes, then what does that exactly mean here locally before we worry about what it means nationally from an NCAA perspective? I will tell you that, talking to colleagues across college football, I think as coaches, we understand how much of a bad deal this is for the senior class. And we want to try to do everything we can for them. But at the same time, we got to try to get our teams back together and get our season back going first. So I think what we've been used to is obviously been changed. And then it's just going to be fluid as we move forward. And then, with teams playing spring football, my son is at Loyola Academy and they'll be playing this spring. Not that the February date isn't fine. I don't think I have a problem with that. I don't know how many more kids will sign then. Maybe we should take a look and see when the latest football games are going to be played this year, and do we need to have another signing date after that, or how does all those rules play out for those kids that are playing spring football, for the senior class, right? The guys that are going in their senior year that don't have offers that need senior video. I feel horrible for that group. And then the next class, the juniors, they're going to start practicing, at least like here in Illinois, they're going to practice in October. So we'll be able to get some video of them practicing at least. But the seniors are the one that's most difficult.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Coach. Well, that's all we got for you. Thanks everyone for coming out. We expect to have a couple student athletes available next week, and we will be sure to pass along this recording.
Well, before we get off, big one going for the Blackhawks, right? So let's go Blackhawks. I'm pretty fired up right now. So let's go.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ray. See you later, buddy. See you, everybody. Be safe. Be healthy. Go Cats.